Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Are you ready to live an inspired and empowered life? Welcome to the Inspired and Empowered Living TV show and podcast. We are live on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, and we are live on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, and my YouTube channel. And today we will be talking about how to go from pain to peace. You can learn how to feel peaceful, and you can allow yourself to get in touch with the serenity that you desire and go from those places of pain to find peace within your being. And know that peace is possible. And today we're going to talk more about how to go from pain to peace. So welcome. I'm your host, Nanci Deutsch, a licensed clinical social worker and certified hypnotherapist and intuitive coach. I combine my counseling, coaching, and intuitive abilities to transform women's lives and to transform your life. And this show is not a replacement for therapy and counseling. It is for educational purposes only. And I see that we have Allie in the house. Good morning, Allie. So before we get into today's show, I always support all of you in asking me questions because I want to share. I want us all on the same page, and I want you to be able to get your questions answered. So please feel free to ask your questions if you're live. Thank you for joining us live. And if you're tuning in at a later time, know that you can go on my Facebook or YouTube channel and put in your questions on my YouTube channel or on my business page on Facebook and on the TV show page, inspiredandempoweredliving.com. So, what I want to do is answer some questions from previous shows. So I'm going to jump right in, and hopefully the people that asked those questions are on. If not, hopefully they'll come back and listen at a later time. So in past shows, I was talking about inspirational music. And so somebody asked, how do you define inspirational music? So one of the things, and this is also important for today's show, I was talking about going from pain, from steps to get to peace and how to find peace. And one of those steps, and this is also helping you to go from pain to peace, is to listen to music that inspires you, music that touches your heart, music that shifts your energy. Because what happens is music actually changes your energy state. And when you listen to music, and it may be music that brings back memories, and positive memories, or there are times if you feel like you need to cry and you don't know how to get there, you put on a sad song. I know that's happened. Sometimes I'm listening to the radio. I'm fine. I'm doing fine, and all of a sudden a music comes on, a song comes on, and it just brings back a memory. And sometimes it brings back joy and peace, and sometimes it brings back sadness because it reminds me of a loved one that I've lost. So whatever it is, music moves you. Music is a way to change your states of being. And inspirational music can take you from feeling down in the dumps to feeling better. And the way that I define inspirational music is any music that makes you feel happier, alive, more peaceful, or joyful. And those types of music can really change your energy state and help you feel more inspired and empowered. And that's what it's all about. So that's how I would define inspirational music. And then somebody asked, where do we find things to find peace? So in past shows, I was talking about ways to bring you to peace. And each one of us is different. You're different than I, and I'm different than you, and you're different than your friend or your loved one. And so each of you have your ways to find peace, to find a way that helps soothe you, a way that brings you into a state of a being. And I see the question coming in, and I will answer it very shortly. And so each one of us, so being able to connect with your place of peace. What calms you down? What brings you to new places of peace and calmness? Now, if you're not sure, then I am going to support you in exploring and being able to explore your ability to find that place of peace. And so I would love to hear from you after you've done some exploring, because it could be, maybe it's nature that brings you to peace, or inspiration, or maybe it's music, or maybe it's your ability to clear your energy. Maybe it's meditation. Maybe it's doing yoga, or maybe it's exercise. Maybe it's feeling a feeling. And I'm going to talk more about that as we go further into the show. Now, I see a question came in, so I want to answer that question now. Why does music have such an effect on people? Okay, so I don't know the exact studies or research, but what happens is music goes beyond the conscious mind right into the unconscious or subconscious mind. So while I'm talking about conscious and unconscious, I am going to define them all so that we're all on the same page, because I'm going to be talking about that also throughout the show. Your conscious mind is the part of you that chose to tune in today. So thank you for being here. And your conscious mind is the one that makes decisions when you empower yourself and you're really consciously aware, which means you're in present time and you're focused on what is happening now. So when you are in that state, you consciously make a decision. Your subconscious mind is the part of you that is reacting and you are in habitual patterns of behavior, thoughts, feelings, and that is your subconscious mind. It has recorded every moment that you have been alive from conception to present time, and also included that in that, and you can take this or leave this, is past lives and ancestral trauma. So in your subconscious mind are all these thoughts, beliefs, feelings, limiting thoughts and beliefs that need to be healed and cleared, and emotions that need to be freed and let out and felt so that you can move to a higher state of peace, going from that place of pain to the place of peace. And your superconscious mind is your higher self, this wise, unconditionally loving part of you, your soul, and your angels, your guides, beings of light. And you all have, whether you believe this or not, you all have them. All of you have these aspects. And so really coming from pain to peace is learning how to connect and work with all those parts of your mind. Now, when you listen to music, music goes beyond the conscious mind right into the subconscious mind. There's something about the energy, the tone, the vibration. Everything in our world is energy. And there's lower energies and higher energies. And lower energies, actually, the lower energies could be certain feeling states that need to be healed and felt or cleared in order for you to feel that place of peace. So, for example, if you feel any shame or guilt or feelings of anger or fear or grief need to be healed and released in order for you to get to the higher states and higher vibrations of peace. And so what happens is music goes beyond, and there's certain frequencies of music. And it is a powerful way, since we're talking going from pain to peace, it is a powerful way to get you sound healing, music healing, music therapy is an amazing way to get you to shift your state of consciousness so that you are then moving from a certain feeling state, like maybe you feel fear. And then all of a sudden, as you listen to an inspired music piece, you start getting into the music and you start jumping around and you start feeling it. What comes to me is there's Pharrell Williams did a piece called Happy. And there's something about that song and that music that wherever I am and whatever I'm doing, when I hear it, I start like bopping to it and it feels really good. And I'm like, and it totally shifts my energy. And so that's what happens with music. And it is a powerful way to go from pain to peace. It's a way to move you beyond where you're at into a different vibration. And depending on the music that you choose, it can change your mood. And the other thing about music, I want to share this story. My father was a musician. And he loved music. And music was always, he played the saxophone and he played the clarinet. And he always loved music. And a few years before he passed, he started having worse and worse dementia. And the dementia, there were times where you couldn't even really talk to him because he was totally in fantasy land. He was in that state of dementia. But what I noticed and what I watched is that you would put on a piece of music and he would be right there and he would be in the song and he would be present and singing that song. It would bring him back from wherever he was. And they've done studies and research on dementia and music and Alzheimer's and all the different states that really help people. And also, it's not just dementia. I believe that it's not only, it's also autism and other different disabilities, mental challenges can really move. So know that music is a powerful tool for you and for all of us. So I hope that I answered your question. And if you have any other questions about that, please let me know. And so I want to answer some questions that came in from, and somebody asked in a past show, do we all have a state of peace of mind? A peace state of mind. And so what I want you all to know is peace is possible for every single one of you. Peace is a natural state of being. In fact, it is the state of being we are meant to be in. But what has happened because of the trauma that we have experienced in our lives, and you may be thinking, but you may know that you've had trauma when you were young and as a child. And some of you may be thinking, but did I have trauma? I don't even know if I had trauma. And so what I'm going to say to all of you is, whether you realize you've had trauma or not, yes, we've all had some kind of trauma in our lives. And each trauma affects us differently. Now, even a developmental stage, like going off to kindergarten or going off to college, can bring up trauma. A trauma reaction can. I'm not saying that happens for everyone, but I'm saying that it's possible. And so you may have trauma that you don't even realize. I've had many clients come to me, and when I started talking about their families, now one of the major traumas that many of us don't even realize, you may not even realize that you have, is the trauma around feeling your feelings. Many families you grew up in a family where it wasn't okay to feel your feelings, or it wasn't okay to feel a certain feeling. So some of you it may have been okay for you to feel sadness, but not okay to feel anger. Especially for women, it's always been more okay for a man to feel angry and not for women. And for men, or for those of you that have sons and husbands, many men grew up. It wasn't okay to cry because they were a boy. And so what I want all of you to know is that all of you have a right to every single feeling you have. Every feeling. And if in your family it wasn't okay to feel feelings, you had to shut it down, or if it wasn't okay to feel a certain feeling, I'm letting you know that is trauma, and that could be very painful. Because when we're not allowed to feel our feelings, we shut ourselves down. And that you want to be able to get to that state of peace, but you're not able to, because if you feel numb, or if you feel what happens is, when you don't feel the feeling back, when it originally began, You can have something happen in your life now, like COVID. Okay. So a lot of people went into a traumatic reaction to COVID, not only because of what was happening in present time, but it was also bringing up trauma from the past. So if you became more anxious or more depressed, more fearful, more stressed out, more strung out, more angry and irritable, more filled with grief, you may be suffering from trauma from COVID and also from something else that was triggered by COVID. That is a possibility. Just wanted to let you know again if you have any questions. So, is peace possible? Yes, peace is possible for every single one of you. Now, I talked about the superconscious mind, the state of your higher self and your soul. Your higher self and your soul, that is the natural state of being, is peace, love, and joy, and gratitude. When you're in those states of consciousness, when you're in those states, you are feeling connected to those higher aspects of yourself. And that's what you want. That's what you want to get to. That's where you want to go, from that place of pain to peace. And so peace is something that because every one of you has a higher self, every one of you has a soul, every one of you has a way to be able to get to that place of connecting more deeply to your higher self and your soul, so that you can get to that place of peace. And somebody asked last week, is it wrong to think about the past from time to time? And I want to let you know it's not wrong at all. We're human, and we're going to have memories surface. And you have a memory, and your memory is that it brings you back to that place of past. Now, it can bring you back to sadness, or it can bring you back to peace or joy. It was like what I was talking about with the music. Music has an ability to go beyond the conscious mind into the subconscious mind, where immediately you recall a memory or you think about the past. Now, here's the thing. Thinking about the past is not wrong. What happens is if you're thinking about the past. Okay, so thank you for that question. Put it up again, because I want to say it for those that are listening. What is the difference between living in the past and thinking about the past? Okay, so the difference is, and this is what I was trying to explain. The difference is thinking about the past and having a memory, or even, allowing yourself to reminisce. That's fine. It's part of being human. It's when you're living in the past that becomes the problem, the challenge. And so how do you know that you're living in the past? You're living in the past when you are not able to even think about the future. You're living in the past when you are having a post-traumatic stress reaction. If you have PTSD, you may very often live in the past. The trauma that you've experienced affects you so deeply that it's really hard. Okay, I'll get to that in a section. Let me finish this, and then I'll get to the next question. that the trauma from your past affects you so deeply that it's really hard for you. You may have trouble functioning in present time. You may have trouble being in certain situations. Like, it may not be all situations, but it may be a certain, like traveling or driving, or if you go on to heights, and you have a fear of heights. And sometimes you may have some kind of traumatic reaction to any of those situations or others. Or you may have an experience where, if somebody is what I call a rager, where they're screaming and yelling, and you feel really scared because you don't know if they're out of control, they are out of control. Or you may be that person that rages or gets really angry like that. That means that you've been triggered. And if you're living in the past in any way, that's where you need more help in terms of clearing your energy and connecting more deeply to you. Now, you may need outside support. You may need a counselor, a therapist, a coach. You may need somebody to help you move past it. If you are feeling really stuck in trauma, that's what counseling and therapy, and also support groups, but having that one-on-one experience is really important. If you're you want to move forward and you really want to make a bigger difference in your life, or make changes, but you're having trouble because you're feeling stuck more in the past, but you want to move forward, that's where a coach can come in. And so all of those pieces, and when you're living in the past, you may feel a lot of pain. A lot of pain may be coming up. And I really want to support you in getting help and support that you need. And okay, so now let me take that other question. We can't actually live in the past. Why do people say that? Okay, so what happens is this is really fascinating on a psychological level. When you have had trauma and you're in that state of living in the past, what actually happens is that part of you that has been traumatized, and it could be a part from childhood, it could be a more present part, but that part is actually still living in the past. That part of you that has been traumatized, that trauma is actually still happening for you now. And so the healing that needs to happen is for you to work with that part and to work with, so that you are able to come out of that the past, that trauma event, and be able to live more in present time. So hopefully that answered your question. And then another person asked, how can you become aware of triggers? So the way that you become aware of triggers is you become aware of a feeling that you're feeling. So if you notice you're not feeling peace, but you're feeling anger at a situation, at a person, and that angry feeling is bigger or more than the situation, or you're not sure where all this anger is coming from, you've been triggered. Or you may get triggered by fear. Suppose you have a situation that let's say an action you need to take, and you know that by taking the action, you know in your head, there's nothing to be afraid of, but you're feeling the fear in your body that you've been triggered. So the trigger is, you've been triggered when you start feeling a feeling state like fear, anger, grief, shame, guilt. If you've had any of those reactions and all those emotions that come underneath, like frustration, if you have any of those emotional reactions, you've been triggered. So and then that's really what's important. That's why I talk about the first step, being consciously aware. This first step to peace is being consciously aware that you've been triggered so that you can then take the action or actions that will help you move from that place of pain to a place of peace. And I also want to share with you, for those of you who are coaches or healers or or therapists, and you would like to become a coach, a healer, a therapist, or do some more healing work for other people and for yourself, I'm actually doing a masterclass. It's a free 3-day virtual masterclass called 3 Keys to Help Your Clients Have Profound Breakthroughs. And it's releasing clients' resistance and self-sabotaging patterns. So if you are a healer, a coach or a therapist, or you would like to be someone that wants to find out more about how to go to the next steps, definitely join me for my masterclass. During that class, we're going to talk about the most powerful approach to helping your clients to heal and move them forward, to discovering the number one way and key to clearing your clients' energetic blocks, and learning how to master your intuition so that you and your clients can have powerful breakthroughs. So join me for my masterclass. It's next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, July 26th, 27th, and 28th, from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern. And Rebel, can you put the link in the chat? And for those of you who are listening and not able to see the link, you go to inspired and empoweredliving.com/masterclass. Again, you're going to go to the name of the TV show podcast, Inspired and empoweredliving.com, and a /masterclass. So I hope that you'll join us and find out more how you can have powerful breakthroughs for you and your clients. Because here's the thing, the bottom line is, you want to have profound breakthroughs in your own life. And the more that you can do it for yourself, the more you can do it for your clients. Just saying. I have done a lot of work on myself in order for me to be able to be where I am. So I saw a question came in. How do we figure out why or how these triggers have gotten to be a thing with us? So thank you for your questions, Nikki. You find out. So the first question I invite you to ask yourself is, what is getting triggered for me? And this is a time you may not be able to do it at the moment you get triggered. So if you become really triggered, and let's say you're in a situation where you don't want to be triggered, you're in a conversation, or you're at work, or you're in out shopping or having something going on, and you find that you're having an emotional reaction that's causing you pain. And so how do you What you want to do is ask yourself at a later time, take time to get in touch what is being triggered. And so asking yourself, what is being triggered for me right now? Where is this feeling similar to something that has happened to me in the past? And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. So I had a client who, the minute someone started raising their Jenny. I had talked about Jenny and Jimmy in past shows, and I'm going to talk about Jenny and Jimmy today because it's a really good example of what happens. So Jenny would get really triggered when Jimmy would go into a rage. He would start screaming and yelling at her. So he got triggered by her if she asked him a question. Now, it may not have been a question that was anything that would cause somebody to go into a rage. But for him, he was getting really triggered with anger. And then what would happen is Jenny would go into fear. She would go into fear and feel really scared of his anger. So she was getting triggered by the fear. And she was getting triggered with fear, feeling really scared. So what happened was, as we worked together, what Jenny and Jimmy discovered was Jenny began to understand that Jimmy's rage was triggering her father's rage. Her father would be a rager. And when Jenny grew up with trauma, and so there was physical abuse, and so when Jimmy would go into the rage, Jenny would become that small girl being traumatized by her father. She wasn't Jenny in present time. She was little Jenny. And Jimmy's anger, Jimmy was getting triggered by Jenny. Even a simple question would trigger Jimmy into getting really in a rage because Jenny was triggering Jimmy's mom. That he would get manipulated by her or controlled. And so he wasn't able to be angry back then. And neither was Jenny. And so what happened was, this is what happens, is when you have that trauma from that young age, you bring it into present time. That's where the pain comes from. That's why you have pain. The pain is usually, most of the time, not from present time. It's from your past. And so learning to be able to understand what dynamic, what feeling, first identify the feeling state. Are you feeling angry? Are you feeling scared? Are you feeling sad? Or perhaps you may be feeling guilty. I've had clients that felt guilt, so much guilt. And then they weren't able to let go of the guilt. And so, excuse me. And so they had so much. Okay, so I see the question, and I'm going to get to that in a sec. And anything would set them and make them feel guilty. And feeling guilty all the time is not healthy either. That's pain. That creates pain. So I know more questions came in. Okay, so let's go to another question from Country Corners Gazette. Why do people hold so much rage? So people hold, wait, one question at a time. Okay, so let's start with why do people hold so much rage? So people hold so much rage because of the things that happened to them as a child that they could not express back then. So take Jimmy, for example. When Jimmy's mom, and he knew he couldn't even label it manipulation or control. Like his mom wanted to do everything, like the helicopter mom, like hovering over him and watching him, and it felt suffocating. And so back then, he couldn't do anything. He couldn't express that anger. He shut it down, and he shut it down, and he shut it down. So if you find that you are shutting down the anger, and this is very common, okay? This is very common. What happens is when it doesn't feel safe to feel a feeling in that moment, that's pain. And so you shut it down, and you shut it down, and you shut it down. And when you shut it down, it doesn't disappear. Anybody who says to you, oh, forget the past, it happened so long ago, the pain does not go away. It lives in your body, it lives in your cells, it lives in your energy field. And so what happens is that when there's a situation that's similar to what happened back then, you couldn't express, you or a person you know may go into that rage, and that's what happens with rage. And so it's really important learning to understand those pieces. So that's why someone can hold so much rage. And rage, that's pain, because what happens is once you have an explosion, and I've had many ragers in my life because I grew up with a rager. My mom was a rager, and I love her dearly, but she was also really scary. And so as I grew up, I started attracting to me people in my life. I had a partner who was a boyfriend who was a rager. I had a friend who was a rager, and it was scary. And I kept working through that energy, where for the most part, I do not have that in my life. And I can't tell you 100% always, but it's something that you will be able to heal. Know that whether you're the rager or the person you know is a rager, you can heal it. If it's your rage, you can definitely heal it and work on it. If it's someone else's rage, one, you can't heal them, but you can take steps to take care of yourself when they have rage. And so that may be something that I can talk about more if that's something that you're interested in. So I know that we have more questions that came in. Any questions that I don't get to today, I want to assure you I will get to them next week, or like I will get to them in future shows. So definitely join us for future shows. So this will be the last question for this show. And then any other questions that come on in now or on Facebook, I will definitely answer them next week. So how can people release these feelings so they don't have to go through all this every time it is brought back up? Okay, so that is a huge question unto itself. So I'm going to give you the condensed version, and then we'll get to more next week's show. Okay? The condensed version is learning to understand your triggers, learning to understand what has been triggered, and then taking the steps that you need to take in order for you to be able to feel more peaceful. So I'm going to review the steps that I gave in the last show, and we're going to continue to work on how to go from pain to peace in the next few shows. Okay. So the first step is that conscious awareness, being aware of your triggers. The second step is working on clearing your energy. You want to clear your energy for the day, and you want to do the deeper clearing. When you do the deeper clearing, and that is clearing the subconscious beliefs in your subconscious mind. So the limiting beliefs and emotions that happened long ago, and it could be a year ago, it could be 5 years ago, it could be 20, 40, 50 more years ago, depending on how old you are. And know that energy still lives in your body, your cells, and your energy field. It doesn't go away unless you process through it in some way. And so you want to do the energetic clearing. One of the ways that you can do some healing and clearing is through music. One of the things that we talked about in the show today, because music goes beyond the conscious mind into the subconscious mind. Then you want to move the energy somewhere, somehow. The more you go into the deeper levels of your subconscious mind and understand the dynamics, understand what's going on there, the more you will be able to heal so that you're not reacting and getting triggered in present time. And so then you move in the energy. You want to make that deeper connection to yourself, your body, your mind, your emotions, your higher self, your soul. It's all the work I do. And being able to get there and to live in that place. And then to be able to take inspired action from that place, from the place of inspiration, that place of feeling inspired and moved and in that higher vibration. And when you do that, you can go from that place of pain to peace. Now, it's a journey. I'm just going to call it like it is. It's a journey. It's a process. It's something that happens through time as you work on yourself and commit to healing yourself. I still get triggered, definitely. I haven't gotten and healed it all, and I've been doing a lot of healing work through the years. So just know you're in the journey. Even being on the show, asking the questions. I really want to acknowledge all of you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming back and joining us. Because whether you're listening live or you're listening at another time, you're curious, you want to understand, you want to know more. And that's the first step towards healing yourself. So congratulations. And we're going to continue this discussion next week's show. We'll do From Pain to Peace, Part 2. Any questions that I didn't get to today, I will work on getting to next week. And I will give you more examples of how to go from pain to peace. More ways that you can take, steps you can take to help you be able to move from that place of pain to peace. So join me next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, and my YouTube channel. And also the podcast is on iHeart, Spotify, Pandora, and Apple. And you can listen to those and more. I'm on many podcast sites. You can listen 24/7. And so I really want to support all of you in learning how you can move from pain to peace. And for those of you interested in finding out more about how to be a practitioner and help people, Rebel, can you post the link one more time? inspiredandempoweredliving.com/masterclass. So join my masterclass next week for understanding how to help your clients or yourself get profound breakthroughs. We'll talk more about that. And I really want to say thank you all. Thank you for joining me today, for listening. And I wish you all an inspired and empowered day and an inspired and empowered week. Have a great one, everybody. Bye for now.